Going into 2014, she's now the defending world champion, which is, for the Americans, this bodes very well. She'd proven herself, and now it was, okay, now you're the defending world champion, so now you have more pressure on you, so there's an extra expectation.
She did it the year before, and she knew that this was something that she could do.
I felt a little bit more pressure that year because I was like reigning world champion, but other than that, I just tried not to think about it, and it was just like, I don't know, just go out there and do what I usually do. I was just harder on myself about it.
Simone horseplay quite often, and Simone would see something or try to mimic something or someone, so I don't know exactly what happened, but I know she ended up with a shoulder injury. Because she was complaining about her shoulder. And I remember 2014 being a long year because there was lots of rehab, there was lots of consultations because the shoulder, the muscle from that shoulder was very weak. It was 10 months later that she finally entered a competition. So that was a long time for Simone to not compete.
I still got to cheer on the team so much, so I think that made me feel better, and it just made me feel not so like lonely and left out, I guess.
But once she was then released and started competing, I think she went out there with a vengeance.
She's going into Worlds with this, expectation that she has to defend her title.
It was very exciting because I had exceeded all my expectations for the meet, and so it was just really exciting to know that I can go out there and be as positive and confident as I could be, and just, I don't know, it's just such a relief whenever you do your job or even exceed. So winning 2014 Worlds, it kind of hit me a little bit more, like thinking back to 2013 Worlds, I was like, wow, okay, I just won again, and it didn't really occur to me either at that moment, but it's just always exciting, and it's just a relief that I can prove myself that 2 years in a row I can be on top, but then again, it's just like, I don't know, I don't even think about it.
This totally changed everything, because now you're halfway to the Olympic year, and everything in gymnastics is all about the quad and all about the Olympic year. So we're halfway there. She's defended her title, and then the consistency and the difficulty came up, and that's when the real comparisons of like, are we looking at the birth of the greatest of all time started. And so that put her into that consecutive win, and how dominant and easy it was for her. There was a huge margin of victory, not the biggest of all time, but still a huge margin of victory, and so it really put her into this like comparison zone that created a ton of excitement and buzz around her.
In 2015, this is a mature Simone. This is a Simone that deep down wants to win a third world champion, but there is so much pressure on this Simone. So it makes a big difference. This is a goal that you wrote down. You need to go and achieve that goal. It's no different from any other goal.
So even this year, I didn't ever set a goal to win Worlds again. Everyone just put that in my head that I could win it again, and that I would be the first 3-time.
And to do being a 3-time world champion, for Simone, that's something that has ever done before. So to go in thinking year before the Olympics, and can I do this, something that's never been done before, is like extra layers of pressure. going into 2015 is a huge year because it's the year that people tend to establish themselves as a contender for the Olympic team, or it's when people tend to kind of decide, you know what, it's probably not going to happen for me, I'm going to move on. It's also the time when you really have to establish yourself as super consistent and dependable, because there's a whole new batch of juniors coming up, and juniors tend to do really well right away when they start.
This year's World Selection Camp was the most nerve-wracking I've ever been to. Just because we had so many all-arounders and so many contributors that would work for the team just as well as anybody else. And so it was very nerve-wracking, and you could feel the tension like in the room every time, and it's just like, not everyone's out to get you, but everyone wants to do their best, so it's just really scary. It was just really scary in there this year.
Having Olympians return, and not just Olympians, but Olympic medalists, that can definitely put you in a situation where you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? This is crazy.
I mean, it scared me a little bit because I knew Gabby had all around and Allie had floor. And so I knew, like, looking for worlds, you could only have 2 per event. So that was like a little bit scary. But other than that, I think it just motivated everyone to see them come back so strong, and it was just really exciting. This year, I think, was the toughest year because they were looking at consistency on top of what they needed you for. Even if you wobble, you're just still so scared because the depth is just so amazing and everyone's just so good.
The 2015 World Championship was as nerve-wracking to me as the 2013.
But then off the plane, we got a little bit of rest, and then we had a workout in the afternoon. And that workout was really rough. I don't know, we all felt a little sluggish from the plane ride and just all tired. And we're like, another workout, we just worked out like 20 times. But I mean, we were all excited to be there because we knew that was the beginning of Worlds and the start of it all. But it was just like pushing through those practices in the beginning were really rough. So during qualifications, we had a couple of falls, but we kind of, at that point, we had done so many practices and we hadn't had a break that we were kind of starting to think that we were overthinking everything we did. And it was just, I mean, it's hard to slow your mind down whenever you start overthinking of everything, because we're like, we've gone so many practices without falling, like, that's weird, you know, and it's bound to happen. And it was very rough for us out there, but then we got the morning off, I think, to just relax and to not think about gymnastics for a little bit.
If I see that she looks relaxed at a meet before it starts, I know it's going to be a good meet. If she looks tense, then I'm worried because she's not practicing what she's supposed to practice. She's supposed to go to that safe place of this is nothing else but a good practice day.
Going into all-around finals, I was really nervous just because everyone had put so much pressure on me to three-peat. And I knew I had the ability to do it, but that wasn't my main focus. It's always to get on top of the podium, to do the best competition of my ability that I can. And I had never been so nervous in a competition as I was that night. Usually I never look at the scoreboard or the scores, and I was like always looking at it because I was just so scared. Well, I started off in vault, and so did Gabby. And my vault still wasn't the best of my ability because I had stuck so many vaults while I was over there, and it just kept frustrating me that every meet I never stuck one. And so I like took a big hop, and I was like, oh my God, Simone, there you go again.
I was a little worried, but not too worried.
We went to bars and I did like the best with bar routine of my life. And I'm like, okay, last bar routine of the year, best one too, okay, cool.
it just proved once again, like the more pressure, the better she does. The bigger the crowd, the better she does.
And then I went to beam and I tried not to think about it. And like the beginning of my routine was actually pretty good. And then I got to my front tuck and Claudia was on floor. And I was like, okay, I know they're about to scream so loud, just don't let it get to you.
She did a tumble pass and the crowd went wild. And that was the same time that my daughter was doing her flip on the balance beam. And for a second, she lost concentration.
And I was like, oh my God. And then I like messed up and almost fell and I had to grab the beam. And that really freaked me out because I was like, I didn't know how close the scores were at that point, but I was like, that's probably enough to not three-peat.
I remember grabbing my husband saying, what is she doing? What is she doing?
It's gymnastics, and I think that a lot of times like we take for granted how incredibly difficult it is and how in the blink of an eye something can happen.
But I could tell that Simone was not really as focused because in a competition, you should not be distracted regardless of the noise from the crowd, because that happens.
Just sometimes you just have to be so confident, even if you have a rough day, you have to pretend like it never even happened and come back and you have to act like you nailed it, and you have to sometimes pretend that you're not angry, or you just have to, sometimes you have to put a smile on and fake it.
For Simone, it was not, and it was an acceptable mistake. She was not happy after beam.
Every mistake that I made, because it just kept going and going, I was like, oh my God, that's it, whatever, I didn't do it. And I was like, okay, just forget about that, we still have floor left.
I knew how much she needed. It was a 14.1 something to win the competition. So I'm just there praying, okay, do not do anything out of the ordinary. Let's just do a clean routine. And then Simone steps out of the floor and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is she doing?
I have no idea. My soul just jumped out of my body and decided to do something else. And I'm pretty sure I gave everyone a heart attack with it. So whenever I went out of bounds on the floor, I'm like, I'm on the red. I'm on the red. You're not supposed to be on the red. Like, what are you doing? And I had never gone that far, so it was really weird to me. But I was just like, okay, well, there's a first for everything. And that was my first. And it just happens to be an all-around competition. So there you go, Simone. But literally, I was just I swear I was trying to do everything I could not to do the 3 feet. I was able to end the routine strong, and it was just really, it was a fun floor set besides going out of bounds. So I was like standing by Coach Amy and I was waiting for them to display my score. And I was just like so nervous because I was like, oh my gosh, I was just like, please. Because I wanted it to happen just for everyone because everyone was so excited about it and I didn't want to let anybody down. So whenever it finally came up, I was like, oh my gosh, I did it. Like, Coach Amy, did I do it? And she picked me up and I like almost cried, but I was like, I can't cry, Simone, keep it together. And I was just like, really excited, but then just disappointed in how the competition went overall, but just excited about like the 3-peat. I don't think it's sunk in yet, but I know what I've achieved, and what I've achieved is like pretty unbelievable, and I'm proud of myself and the team that I have surrounding me to help me do that. And so I just think it's such an honor. Every time I go out there, I'm just so excited to compete for the US, and it's just like, it's an amazing feeling.
This all-around final was really a competition between Simone and herself. And so for someone else, all those things could have taken someone out of the competition completely, but because she has great form and execution, because she has insane difficulty, it didn't really matter.
We are celebrating Simone's three-peat for world champion, so we're just bringing a lot of family and friends together, and it's really fun.
It's amazing because I know everyone here is like just wants the best for me, and they're just always cheering me along the way, and it's so amazing to have so many supportive people. You want to say hi? Say hi. Say hi. Hey baby, how are you? It hasn't sunk in yet, actually. My first Worlds is actually just now sinking in. I'm like, wow, that's an amazing accomplishment. So to think I've done 3, it's just like, it's insane and I can't even believe it. Every time I just say congratulations, I'm like, for what? But then I remember, I'm like, oh, thank you, it's so fun. Like, it was a good time. So recently I went pro, and there was a lot of thought into it. It wasn't just like one day I woke up and I was like, I'm gonna go pro today. I don't know, I've been scouted by agents, and I know like Gabby and Allie are pro, and I know it's really hard to make it whenever you're a pro athlete, especially in women's gymnastics. But then again, you have that window of opportunity, and it's so short that I knew I had to make a decision, pro or college. But if I can challenge myself in that way, then I should do it, and college will always be there. But like being a pro athlete won't. So it was just like really hard, and I like cried about it, and I talked to my parents, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go pro. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm gonna go to college. I'm gonna go pro. No, I'm not. No. So I'd wake up different days and be like, I want to go pro. And then going to bed, I'm like, no, I really don't. And so it was really hard, but then I finally made the decision. What's the set on? Let's go. Just a half again?
On vault today, we're playing with the chain. We've had some ups and downs with it, but it's been going pretty good lately. So we've just getting back on it now that Worlds is over, see if we can get it ready for Rio maybe next year. To win 3 Worlds in a row in 1 quadrennium is one thing, but she'll have to do it at the Olympic Games to prove that she's the greatest.
Simone and I have talked about that. We've talked about goals because we're very goal-driven in the house, period. So when she said to me, she goes, Mom, remember when we wouldn't even talk about that old word? For Simone to win that ultimate goal, that long-term goal that she's wanted all of her life or since she started gymnastics, I think I would feel like I died and went to heaven. It would mean the world to me, and I know it would mean the world to her also.
I'm really excited about the Olympic year next year. It's so exciting to see how far we've come, and it's actually like it's going to be here sooner than we know. It adds a little bit more pressure being a favorite just because they're always still waiting for you to mess up and make a mistake. But other than that, it's just like you can take the pressure and turn it into positive energy. I think I have the potential to be the best, but I wouldn't ever say I'm like the best ever. So, but maybe hopefully I can be.